You don't deviate from the plan. You don't sit on your hands and you don't cry and why me, poor me. I don't like that mentality. I don't have that mentality. I don't cry. I don't. I get pissy because I demand greatness from myself.
Welcome to this week's Escape Your Limits podcast. Our guest today is known as the Welsh Dragon. Born and raised in Wales, he emerged as a force to be reckoned with in the world of professional bodybuilding. He conquered the competitive landscape by creating a record-setting 7-time Olympia 212 champion. His sculpted physique and undeniable charisma propelled him to the top, solidifying his status as one of the most accomplished athletes in the history of the sport. Recognizing his calling to inspire and empower others, he opened the doors to his world-class gym in Las Vegas, a haven for fitness enthusiasts and aspiring athletes. The Dragons Lair offers a transformative space where dreams are realized, limits are shattered, and community thrives.
I got to the top by being my own sort of voice.
Did he see what you couldn't see at one point?
When people are worried, that's when you double down. When people are not investing, that's when you invest. When your stocks are low, throw in money. I never had any show that I was just overwhelmed with excitement. It was more of a bag of relief, like, okay, I've done it. And it's not a defeatist thing, it's because I knew in my heart of hearts this day that I'd done everything in my power to try to stay in the game.
So please welcome the Welsh Dragon, Mr. Flex Lewis.
Mr. Flex Lewis, thank you so much for inviting me to your wonderful Dragons Lair, I guess.
Thank you. Well, technically this is the office.
Right.
The lair is painful outside, but in here, we're peaceful.
Right.
No, thank you. It's great to be here. Great to have you here.
And I have to give a big thanks to our mutual friend, Mr. Jared Scirocco, for helping set this up.
Yes. Good old Jared. Great guy and doing wonderful things here behind the scenes of the Dragons Lair also.
Yeah. So what's it like, I guess, sort of, Wales, Vegas, what's the same about those two places? What are the similarities, would you say?
Absolutely nothing. That's why I created the Dragons Lair here in Las Vegas, to really give a little culture to to my surroundings, and also remind me that even though I'm thousands of miles away, this is still my home from home, and I'm surrounded by dragons. I'm surrounded with a lot of the Welsh boys. The Welsh team has sent me a lot of jerseys. They know what I'm doing here. They know that I'm very prideful Welsh guy. Wear the flag on my arm, even though people think that's a feather duster. That's another subject. It's definitely been the vision that I wanted to create, and it's turned into reality now. So people come to the gym and they truly don't know the symbolic meaning of the dragon to me. They just know that it's related to me because people call me the Welsh Dragon. I've had that same as Joe Kazaki. But again, it's very prideful for me. But in terms of similarities, there's not much. The weather is totally different. And that's what I love, though. I go back home expecting it to be absolutely miserable.
And raining, enjoy it.
And I love it. Because we don't get much rain in the desert here. We get snow. We don't get much rain.
Right. And you've not from the gym business. You've spent a lot of time in the gym, but not from the gym business. Yeah. And you opened this place up in probably one of the most challenging times to open a gym. Tell us a little bit about that story, because a lot of people who listen to this are involved in that business, and you've got a fairly unique story about how that was beneficial to you.
Yeah. Oh wow. So we got Siri
got
talking.
Siri on there.
Siri's trying to help with my with the storyline.
Listening to everything.
Yeah, it's true. So, shall I take it back to somewhat to the beginning?
Yeah, go on.
I won't go right back, but let's just say I moved from Tennessee. I was around a lot of gym owners. So, in terms of helping build and create and culture a gym, I was able to do that with a couple of my friends who own various different gyms in Tennessee. So I was able to see kind of the behind the scenes and what having athletes done and bringing in friends done for a gym culture, community, and etc. So when I met my wife, who was from Florida, she was going to come to Tennessee, and I thought, you know what, let me have fresh starts and come to you. Hopefully she didn't bump into any ex-girlfriends, so they're fresh starts. But what I done when I moved to Boca Raton was really, truly sort of start focusing more on bodybuilding than anything else. The Mr. Olympia title was already won at that point. I had won. But now the target was on my back. And I truly felt that moving to Florida was really going to allow me to focus. There was no distractions. There was no people that I knew or anything like that. It was just me getting to the gym and 100% focus on that endeavor. And what happened was these gyms then started seeing me as an entity of sales. And when I was in the gym, you know, if somebody was brought in as a guest or somebody was a potential member, I'm training in the gym, headphones on, they would be brought up to me, hey, Flex, tell them why they should join the gym. Take a picture. And this happened more and more. And then what happened was they would do these, come and meet Flex Lewis tomorrow, meet and greets on Facebook. And I had no clue. So imagine me dieting, I'm walking in with my gym bags, about 50, 60 people, young kids in school uniforms with their parents. It was just like wild. And I realized that for me to now have the full focus for the main reasons as to why I moved to Florida, aside from being with, you know, my future wife, was to win and defend this title. So I give you one more shot. I went to a different gym, something happened again. And because I'm around the used gym equipment space, I knew enough people to inquire if I was to open up a gym, what would I be able to get for this kind of investment? And as you may know, Boca Raton is not a cheap place, and with very little kind of credit, you know, at the time, everything was being built up. I was able to get into a building, a gym building, a 9,000 square foot warehouse, and kit it out with as many pieces as I could, and truly had the ideas of doing camps and stuff like this in this building. Had no name, had this incredible idea of, you know, just putting, you know, a camp together with a couple of VIP people of mine. And that's how it started. Now this building then started turning into VIPs coming into town, friends of mine outside of the sport we're in. It ended up going into, you know, I would say, no names mentioned, celebrities who were filming films, knew about the gym. They came in and stayed in the area, trained in the area, filmed in the gym. And this then started evolving. Then people started putting pins in the building address. I'd had people knocking the door, begging to come in, and we started then blowing up into this Dragons Lair. People started asking about a name. As I said, we called it the Dragons Lair, kind of synonymous to me, synonymous to the brand. Had no intentions of being a gym owner. This was a purpose-built gym, hand-selected pieces that I seen around the world. If I was in a different country, I'd take a photo, send it to my guy, the gym plug, and he'd get these pieces for me, and we start storing them in. So I'd buy like 3 at a piece, and in the end, I had a absolute hodgepodge of various different pieces from every different brand, every different color, in what is now known as the Dragons Lair version 1.
Do you still have a lot of that equipment?
I kept some pieces because it was truly, you know, not to jump so far ahead, but some of the pieces were truly attached to certain people, like, you know, Dallas, who passed away. There's certain pieces that him and I trained on for a couple of Olympias that we had pictures on, that we killed each other on, excuse my language, that I truly felt I can't get rid of this piece. I can't. So I put in storage, again, not knowing what I was going to be doing with it, but at the time it didn't match my evolution. So in very short context, me and my wife ended up having the version 1 for a number of years. And then when Arsenal Strength, who, as you know, I'm a partner in, started evolving, started putting more and more pieces out, we started putting, you know, as the company started growing, 1, 2, 3 pieces in, and it started blowing up. So in the end, we kind of sat back and we were like, we got to turn this into an Arsenal Strength showroom. So several years later, we done so, and we turned that place into kind of a very similar vibe to what we have here. Spray painted the walls, flew a graffiti artist in, top graffiti artist in, Marty Bro from Australia, who paints murals for LeBron James, an incredible artist, great friend. Done an incredible job at the gym. And we outlaid this with the color scheme and the turf and the flooring and everything else as if it was a commercial gym open to the public. What the detriment of having that look was, people thought it was open to the public. And more VIPs that I had coming in, big name people, every would post, every would put the pin in, location, and then we started having tourists that
It's everybody's dream that owns a gym, by the way.
I know. Again, I
And
wasn't a
you're
gym
like,
owner.
oh, damn, you know, all these people want to
I
come.
know, I'm sorry. We're open now.
Introducing the next big thing in functional training, the Escape Barrow, a revolutionary training tool that combines a loaded farmer's carry with a sled push to develop hip, grip, and core strength. Developed in partnership with Pete Holman, inventor of the TRX Rip Trainer and Nautilus Glute Drive, the Escape Barrow can be rolled, pushed, dragged, and carried. The Escape Barrow packs a punch with an impressive load capacity of 440 pounds, and with a 2-stage galvanized paint covering process, it's also ideal for outdoor use. So head over to escapefitness.com/barrow. That's escapefitness.com/barrow to find out more. Enjoy the rest of this episode.
But we had people that literally flew in to Fort Lauderdale Airport, flew into Miami, flew into Orlando, 3 hours away, that drove all the way down. And if I brought in an athlete, for example, for my camp, so I had the mentality to kind of just like a fighter, because I'm around fighters, a lot of friends of fighters, they would go to Big Bear. They would go to different places and they would bring in sparring partners. They would bring in athletes that brought them to the level of fighting or the level that they need to be. I would do the same thing. I'd bring in athletes, young athletes who are future Mr. Olympias, future winners in different categories. And I surround myself with that because my mentality is I got to the top by being my own sort of voice and having a
What
a
do you
coach.
mean by that?
Well, when you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you have the ability to hit the snooze button and nobody knows, I am my own voice at that point in time. I am the guy that's going to tell myself, I'm the champ. I can hit that snooze button, get up in 2 hours. I've had the ability, thankfully, during this whole reign of 7 Mr. Olympia wins, to train as if it was my first. And I've been able to surround myself with people, just like my coach of 19 years, who still, not to this day, thankfully I'm retired, but every one of them shows, every one of these shows, I got goosebumps talking, he would talk to me when we would start prep as a coach. That transition was very difficult at first because you had a friend, transitioned into a coach, and he would tell me all the time, okay, on Monday, I put that coach hat on. And then I'd be like, yeah, okay, cool. But then it would start. He would hit me up every morning. And he was in the UK at the time, so he's ahead of the pack. So I'd wake up, it's like, why are you not up? It's fucking 6 o'clock in the morning. Get up at 5. What's your weight? Every day, like Groundhog Day. And at first, I found it very difficult to transition. Every year I found it difficult because when I had my friend, then all of a sudden I had my coach. But then I had to reassess myself and be like, okay, what do you want, a cheerleader or a coach? So when he wasn't there, and, I was my own voice. Yes, I have my wife and everything else, and she's the best set of eyes next to my coach, Neil Hill. Truly is. But again, with many different things, the unseen, it was up to me and myself only. So I'm going back to the story of bringing athletes in. I see myself in these guys. I seen the hunger, I seen the drive. And when you're around that, and you're around the mentality of first there, last to leave, you just don't, you just can't help but to up the bar. Or if you are the bar, keep that bar high. So I created a culture. I bring in, these athletes. Dallas McCarver was one. Rafael Brando. Is so many. And I said, okay, every day we meet at the gym at 11:30. We'll talk for 30 minutes before we start. Drink the pre-workouts. How's your mum? How's the dog? Whatever it would be. As soon as we walk into that threshold, we ain't talking about none of that. You don't like me and I don't like you. Your job is to push reps out of me, and my job is to push reps out of you. And these guys, you know, again, when you're around these young, hungry guys, they don't want to let you down. And you don't want to let them down because you are kind of leading the pack, right? Not only did it push me all the time, but it got the best version of myself out too, mentally, physically, and it just kept me on my toes. Because you just walk, talk, and act accordingly. You know, I never give myself the ability to slack because, again, 11:30 meetup, 12 o'clock start. If you weren't there by 11:30, you had 30 minutes to get your ass there. And some of these guys, they can tell you right now, and they're watching this right now, they came here at 12:01. There was only one way you could get into my gym, buzzer on the front door. And they stood out there for 2 hours, banging, calling, asking, pleading, sorry I'm late, traffic, don't give a shit, leave 30 minutes earlier. And that's the lessons you need to learn in life, is tough love. I was given tough love by my coach, and I had tough love all the way through my career. I never asked for anything else. So what message am I giving now to the young guys that they can get away with this because they have talent, they have genetics, they have such? No. Turn up. Keep yourself responsible. If you're going to be late, text me. That's all I ask. If you don't text me, sorry, the door's closed. And that's kind of, that message transitions into so many different things in life, right? I came to this country, I knew one person. I left all my creature comforts. I left a business, a successful business that I won 3 Young Businessman of the Year awards for.
What was that?
In moving. I had a moving company.
Right.
I had an award from Prince Charles, King Charles now, KEF Scholarship, Prince Trust. And I grew that through college, and people said that wasn't going to work. Said the same thing about bodybuilding. So I got on a plane, I came to this country, I knew one person, and I said I was going to do this. So I've heard the same repetitive story. You can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it, you won't do it, you won't do it. And I just love hearing that. I'd rather hear that in some cases than you will do it. I only want to hear that from certain people because people know, like my wife, my coach, and everything else, they know how I am.
How much is that? And we'll come back to the gym
absolutely.
because I know
I'm sorry, yeah. Welcome to interviewing Flex Lewis, my friend.
That's fine.
ADHD out the ass.
We'll keep it. We will come back. But it was an important thing you said about the coach, and you mentioned, you know, your trainer, Neil Hill. And I just wondered, you're obviously super driven and motivated yourself. That comes with you, and we can talk about that in a second. But how important do you think it's been in your success to have, over and above what you bring to the table, to have someone like Neil that just squeezes that extra bit of juice out of you, whether it's in what you do from your Olympia or in business? Are those important people for you to get around you in what you're doing in life?
Oh, no question. I mean, you're a product of your environment, right? As I've evolved, and I'll answer the Neil question, but in terms of circles, unfortunately for me, when I came to this country, I kind of entrusted everybody. I thought anybody who was kind of nice to me was going to be nice and around me for life. Kind of like maybe a Welsh mentality. But I would say the same people who believed in me when I had nothing are still around to this day. They're still around. And I've also felt as a badge of honor that these people who believed in me when I had absolutely nothing, when I eat, they eat. Because a lot of these people give food off their plate, literally, for me to get to where I am. Neil is one of them, my coach. He had an injury at probably the peak of his career, which ended him having to retire early. And his mentality was not there to retire. So he will tell you that I came into his life right at the right time. And he literally gave me his contract, his supplement contract, which was free protein. You know, I was doing everything to be the best. I was any pennies and pounds that I was able to get together, working in Tesco's and everything else, I put all into bodybuilding. I was all in. And, you know, the expense of trying to be a bodybuilder with the food and the supplementation was just, you know, extraordinary. So to have a free pot of protein, that's all it was at that point in time, was everything to me. And these small little things created such a big picture. And me linking with Neil and us traveling around the world and him literally paying for me to go places because I didn't have no money is and needs to be kind of spoken about. I've spoken about it, a few times, but I'm glad you brought up this question because this coach of mine truly is a coach, like a real coach. He's seen the potential in me. We went.
Did he see what you couldn't see at one point?
Oh, no question. I was like, what does this guy want me to compete in all these shows for? Like, he's like, you can be the best. And, without getting emotional, but he's like, you can win this show. And he's very realistic, but he's also very demanding. Very demanding. And, I'm a little pissy teenager at this point in time, right? And he's telling me like, you could really win this Welsh and you can win the British and then you could win the Europeans and you could win the Junior Universe. And I'm like, whoa, what the hell? Like, all right, okay. But still, you kind of like hearing this, but it's a kind of a scary thought because you're going to countries and there was no social media back then. If anything, it was very kind of, on the rise. The internet is around, so you could see past champions online, and these guys at 20 years old were monsters. But you don't see, and I'm glad I didn't. I never seen what I really seen. But what my difference was conditioning. We suffered, and that was Neil's forte. Neil would get into crazy conditioning. So, I'm a regimented soldier. You lay out the plan of action, and my goal was every time I drove to Tenby once a week, which was 1 hour away, in my moving truck, which cost me a fortune in gas and petrol. I would drive there. He would look at me under these unforgiving lights in his kitchen, which he purposely put in. And he'd basically say, you look great. Okay, let's change the diet year and year, yeah. And my goal was, by the time I drove home, I was like, oh, yes. I wanted to make sure the next time I went there that I had the same reaction and the same reaction and the same reaction, because he's a very hard guy to please. I never got any compliments in the off season. Fucking, he told me so many times, the f you doing? You're fat as hell. I'm sure you're going to blank a lot of my words out. I'm sorry, I'm still Welsh. And he would literally, when you get a compliment from him, and for most people who have worked with him will know, getting a compliment from him is not something that he does very easily. If you hear a lot of them, it's like, oh my God, you've had a coffee today or something? What's going on? But I think that's one of the reasons why I have so much respect for him. He demands so much from himself. And also, you can, I mentioned this too, 7 Olympians. Do you know how many after parties he went to? 1. I dragged his ass out. Because I said, Coach,
which one was that? First or the last?
The first.
Oh, first.
He's like, oh, because he would physically be so exhausted. Truly, because he's up early, he's mentally like, okay. And, when you're on the day of the show, you can win and lose a show in a banana. So it's a lot of science, there's a lot of manipulation with food, mainly food at that point in time, because I'm already on point. And he would come to the room periodically, he would, at that point in time, you're kind of like a baby, right? You're kind of feeding yourself. I know you compete, you know what I'm talking about. You feed yourself up, you do the media and everything else. I don't want to think like I'm some, bum in the room all day. I do media, and because I was a champion at that point in time, then media people coming in and out and in and out. So in between, I would sleep. But then when he came in, if I was sleeping, he'd be like, hey, get up, I want to see what you look like. So, oh my God. So it was, to him, a very stressful job. And after the show, because, I'm sure I'm demanding too, we kind of wouldn't talk to each other for a couple of weeks. we'd speak but we wouldn't be, and then it would be a nice reset button for us to get back into being our relationship again. But I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for him. I mean, he's seen something in me that I didn't see myself. And that's one of the reasons why that every company I've ever signed with, I've negotiated with me and my team. And once I've done my negotiations, okay, now you send my coach. I've done my negotiations. He's my non-compromise. He comes with me everywhere we go. And his credits are his credits. He's gone and now he's become one of the best coaches in the world, all the way from Wales too. He's worked with, again, everybody, won Honor Classic titles, Olympia titles. He works now with Roman Reigns, who's one of the biggest superstars in WWE. And you know, one of the most humblest coaches on the planet in my eyes. And sometimes I feel like I have to be his voice of how good he is, because he won't say how good he is himself. But we've both come from very humble beginnings. We've never forgotten where we've come from. And I think that's essential. It reminds, and we both remind ourselves. In fact, I spoke to him today, and he just does, I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag, but he just had a big client that reached out to him today, and we kind of reminisced on how far we've come to. We have these moments, and we both know what that feeling's like, because there's not many people that can relate, but him and I pinch each other a few times a year and say, man, remember that we stayed at in Southport when we done the Junior Universe? And look at us now, you know? But again, we've never forgotten where we've come from.
So coming back then to the gym story.
Yeah.
So Tennessee, you had the equipment. Like, how did you end up here then in Vegas just after the pandemic?
Yeah, so the pandemic happened and it really shut down the world, right? It kind of, the plans of potentially opening up the gym to the public was never going to happen because of the code, the area code we were in, unfortunately wasn't zoned for gyms. And also how we built the gym, we would never be able to flow a gym within that space. It was a great showroom, which it was titled as. And we realized fast enough that when you had people, like I said, that were driving all over and sleeping in cars outside the gym, many times, I'd have to call my VIPs and say, don't park outside the gym, walk. Don't wake these kids up, they're waiting for us. We knew we had something. So when the pandemic happened, myself and my wife looked at each other and we were like, okay, where do we take this? We looked around Florida. You know, South Florida was pretty open. You know, Ron DeSantis done a great job, great governor, Republican governor, kept the world open up there. And we did look at several different warehouses in several different locations. You know, the masks and everything else. It was kind of a weird time. People like touching buttons from afar and stuff, and that was Florida. We ended up, it just wasn't in my heart. It just wasn't in my heart. One of my best friends lives here and lives in Vegas. He was doing a big project in helping Resorts World open up. He does some big gigs, and he was like, Flex, a couple of gyms closed down here before the pandemic, which I knew. And he's very much like me, very young guy, business savvy. And he said, I think, this is Doug Green, shout out Doug Green. I think you should come out of Vegas. So it was my wife that grabbed the bull by the horns. And she's,
always is, isn't it?
Oh, and well, listen, I'm the visionary normally. I'm the one that kind of, and Ali's a realist. But in this case, Ali was like, let's go and check it out. What's the worst? So we jumped on a plane and, you know, full masks and all this craziness. And I thought, nobody's going to recognize me. And I didn't want anybody to know I was out here. When we get off the plane, there was like 4 or 5 fans in the plane. I was like, please don't post this. Nobody knows I'm in Vegas. Straight away posted it. So people hitting me up, why are you in Vegas? I was like, I'm checking something out. Nobody assumed anything. We came out here, we looked at different locations. We came back again the second time. We were able to find this building. Next door was the first one I walked in. I came out. I came into here. I was looking for a standalone or end cap, which is this. And buildings were very hard and still hard to get here in Vegas. And I very much lucked out with this because we're backing up to the 15 and this freeway goes all the way to California. This is the main freeway that goes all the way to California, all the way up to Utah. And there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of passes, car passes here a day, visual in the back, CO sign. And we go back to the building. I went in there, came in here, and I was like, I'll take both. And we started construction. And before that, though, I want to say my wife was, let's do this. And I was kind of like, my daughter, you know, my daughter Adi. We were like, she's in school. She's a great school. So then we kind of school shopped. We found a great school. It was very similar to Florida, same style of learning. So for me then, and Ali, of course, I was like, okay, let's do this. And we were all in, and it's been the best move. It was an incredible move. We were able to grow this in the pandemic with literally people who wanted to work. Nobody knew we were doing anything. We tinted the windows. We had a load of people in here all day long. It was like directing traffic. I had great GCs, and I had this vision, and thankfully for me, I had some great people who turned it into my reality.
Did you think, I guess it's a bit of a weird time to think about starting a business because nobody really knew how long any of this was going to go on. Like, you know, how when you were thinking about it, you know, the cost, the move, you must have had a bit of certainty that things are all going to be all right and gyms are going to be back again, which a lot of people didn't.
I'll be honest with you, mate. It's the truth. I look you in the eyes. I didn't have one bit of worry. I knew that this was going to, I didn't know, but in my heart of hearts, I believed that this was going to be a chapter that everybody comes out from, learning, appreciates life more, understands that health now is going to be now of a priority, because a lot of people weren't going to the gym, they weren't taking their health serious, they weren't eating right. There's a lot of different things that actually aided them into getting COVID, getting worse. And now a lot of people, doctors, scientists, people who are way over my pay grade have all said that health is wealth. A lot of people who didn't get severely sick testamented that down to going to the gym, keeping themselves in health, keeping themselves moving. So when I opened up this place, I knew that, I believed then, shall I say, knew is a different word. I believed that there was going to be a time period that this was going to, you know, blow over. I also surround myself with a lot of positive people, a lot of mentality guys, a lot of business owners who have the same mentality of, when people are worried, that's when you double down. When people are not investing, that's when you invest. When your stocks are low, throw in money, you know? So that kind of mentality. That's not financial advice, by the way. But that's who I'm around, and also, you know, I'm that voice for my circle of people too. So when I told people that I was doing this, I didn't have anybody tell me, what the hell are you thinking about? Because they already know. But the ones who have told me, the worrisome people, the kind of mentality people who have that kind of have that, oh, what if? Oh, I don't know, you know? They're still there. They just found out after the fact. They found out when I was opening the gym. Because I didn't need to have the what if people. I wanted this is a great move. This is, you know, I also don't have people who blow, you know, smoke around me. These, and when I'm saying these, it's a small circle. It's a small circle of people who I entrust in, you know, but when you've got the biggest critic and the biggest supporter around you that's saying this is going to work, that's my wife, then who else do I really give a shit about? We were doing this together, you know, people see me as this is my gym, but let me tell you something. My wife knows more about this gym than I do. You know, she is, you know, she is the, and you go and ask my front desk staff. She's the brains and the brawn behind I'm the brawn, I'm sorry. She's the brains behind the operation. But, you know, obviously, you know, I joke, but, you know, we built this together. Her strengths are not mine, and mine are not hers. And we both believed in the same thing. We both believed that this was going to be something special. We created something in Boca Raton that we took to Vegas. And as with what most people say, everybody comes to Vegas at least once a year. And there's so many events that bring in people from the US to Vegas every single year, multiple times a year. So we wanted to create a hub where you knew that when you walked into this gym, it was going to be a culture that you couldn't duplicate, you couldn't replicate. This was going to be a place full of motivation, stimulation, and because I have felt that in my own heart, when I first walked into Gold's Gym Venice, when every single pro and every single celebrity was training in there, when Gold's Gym Venice was what it was, I knew that I could create something very similar here. And now we have, you know,
you get a lot of guests. You're a big part of
celebrities.
people come in for the day and the weekend.
Yeah.
It's a big part of what you do, yeah.
But that is kind of, that is the business, but you have to create the culture. And the culture here is nothing like I've ever seen in any gym. And maybe I'm biased, but I see it from the inside out and the outside in. The athletes we have here, the business owners, the general members, the big superstar celebrities we have here, everybody walks in here with one mentality: to train. You got Mr. Olympia training next to somebody who's 85 years old, who's had 2 hip replacements, and they're both just as much motivation to me and many other staff members as, you know, the guy who's, like I said, they got the titles. You look around and you've got guys like, you know, we mentioned earlier, the Hodge twins, Dana White, Dan Bazarian. So many people that come to this gym, then they don't get bothered. They come in here and they feel at home. They love this gym. You know how many messages that I've got in my phone of people that I used to look at on social media, now I can call friends, that say, thank you for bringing this to Vegas. It's incredible. And you mentioned the day passes. We've been very blessed that we're one of the #1 gyms now in the country that has day passes, you know, that come in, week passes. People have come in for one day, gone to another gym, came back and said, no, I'm staying here. I'm coming here for the week. People who have come here for a week extend this trip to several months. And then they're moving here. So we've heard every single story. We've had proposals here. We've had, I mean, so many things have happened here. So many storylines have happened in this gym. We've only been open what is it? You know, we're going to be coming up to 2 years. We're in 2 years, I'm sorry. So it's, 3 years. We've been living in Vegas, but yes, it's been a wild couple of years. But
and you were saying before we chatted that you don't spend a penny on marketing.
Not put a I know.
Which is, I guess there's not many people who can probably say that in the gym business, I suppose.
I'm very blessed that we have, as I said, people that come here and film, post, talk about it on their stories, that are members, that are day passers, celebrities who get paid and endorsed a lot of money to do one post, and they're putting several out a week in my gym. And yeah, we've not paid for $1 in marketing. This has been, it's been incredible. Again, listen, there's a lot of things that create this gym. I am not one. I am just one. I'm sorry. I am just one entity that brings, you know, life to the gym. But then there's so many different other boxes, and people are coming in for a day pass. In many cases, I've heard about the gym, but don't even know about me. That's when you know you're doing something right. And when you've got people who are coming in and enthusiastic and coming in straight from the airport with their bags and their luggage and everything else, and they're like, oh my God, we just had to come here straight. That's when you know you're doing something right. They're not coming here to get hammered and drunk and everything else. The pool parties and everything else, I'm sure that's part of it, but this is also a big part of it too. And because we're so close to the Strip by design.
And the airport.
And the airport. We're kind of nestled in between. Yeah. It's truly kind of worked out in many different ways for us. And there's things that we've watered to grow, and then there's things that have just organically grown that we didn't put any attention in. And again, that's what I said, it's so many different boxes that makes this gym unique. It's truly a place that, you know, people call home.
One of the things we were chatting about is the sort of, I guess, style of gym, where back in the 80s, it was very much, they called them spit and sawdust gyms back in England, where cables and free weights, and then that whole model kind of disappeared, and you had the big box health club. But I know it's not the case everywhere around the world, but this, I guess it, you know, I'm certainly hearing it from a lot of other people in the business that after the pandemic, a lot of things changed in terms of what people wanted from the gym. You mentioned about the amount of sort of, you know, females now going in there, and you seem to have kind of, I guess, you know, changed your concept and what people wanted seemed to kind of coincide. Was that intentional or?
Yeah, I guess my vision was what people wanted. It wasn't intentional. I didn't kind of change my business model to suit a demographic. My demographic was the Dragons Lair. And if you look at the Boca Raton location, like I said, I just picked it up and I planted it here in Vegas. And of course, there's certain things that we listen to our members, we listen to what needs to be done. And that's one of the reasons why we're kind of, you know, playing Tetris with the wrong pieces, but we're trying to always evolve, expand. We had the Arsenal Strength showroom here in the gym. And because of the evolution of the Dragons Lair, I'd love to have kept the Arsenal Strength showroom here. It's a great element. I mean, we've had a lot of big VIPs who go in there to train away from, the general public, which all end up wanting to be in the main gym, by the way. So we realized that, with Arsenal growing, with us growing, it was probably better for us to move the Arsenal Strength showroom. Now we have a new location, incredible location, downtown Las Vegas, and now we've acquired back that room. And now it's turned into a leg room. A leg room. So it's more torture. So what we've done is we listened to the athletes, and we've handpicked different pieces purposely to fulfill that room and fill that room full of everything that we didn't really have before, So we wanted to create a one-stop shop, and the vision I had was a one-stop shop, which I wasn't able to do, obviously, in the Boca Raton location. So I headhunted this gentleman who's here next to my office. We call him the Torture Room. He is one of the best in the game. He was in Seattle, Washington, and I basically convinced him nicely to come to Las Vegas. And obviously he had his reservation. I was like, listen, you're going to come here a week, but I'll give you a free month. Come here a week and you'll see. And I said, you'll be like, okay, I'm coming. He was here for less than a week, and he went back home. Within 2 weeks, he was moved here. He realized that he had to be here to further his business, but he also needed to be here because this is where everybody was coming in, again, tourist-wise, athlete-wise, and he's had the biggest names on his table that he'd never be able to get in Seattle, Washington. So going back to your question, the model that I have here is truly unique, and it would be very hard to kind of take this model and put it in another state.
Really?
That's why I've been asked multiple times, and I've had people that have walked into my office with a blank check. Let's open this gym in Texas. Let's open this gym in Boise.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was said the same thing.
Yeah.
I said, I could imagine he's been all over the place.
It just has to be location.
It's a Vegas
location.
thing, is it?
Yes and no. It just has to be a destination.
Right.
So think of the destinations around the world and where people frequent. It has to be there for tourism. It also has to be there for the celebrity aspect, and it also has to be there for the energy. People come to Vegas excited, lose a lot of money gambling, but when they come to the gym, they know they're going to gain something, and that's normally a pump anyway. So
can you imagine it in somewhere like Dubai or some places like that? Could you?
I can see it in Dubai. I can see it in London or England somewhere. Everybody wants me to say Wales.
Wales.
Everybody wants the Dragons Lair Wales.
Don't you?
And I can see it in some other tourist destinations too, But right now, with this model, we're always evolving, and where I see this brand going is going to be in the evolution stages, somewhere where we build this into the true gym it should be. Right now, we have an incredible facility, but again, we need space to make it that much better. And in the growing stages of where we are, number of years time, I think this is where we'll build. And it's actually exclusive. We probably would build a Dragons Lair here in Las Vegas and create it into its true empire it should be. Recovery, touching on so many different things that we don't have the bandwidth to grow right now.
A real big Vegas kind of, go large idea.
Yeah,
I can see that working here.
Yeah, it again with
a super. I don't think there's any around. I've not seen those kind of like you say. The only one I can think of is you've got the Gold's Gym in LA, Muscle Beach, which has been there for a while. But I've not seen kind of that Vegas, Dragons Lair Vegas kind of scale. I could see that.
And it's got to kind of be fitness industry bodybuilding, right? So there's multiple gyms in this town. There's a lot of big gyms, in town. But they also have a demographic that is not us. There's a reason why we have a price point on the business element. The price point kind of weeds out a lot of the, without beating around the bush, you have a $10 membership, you have a $10 member. They'll take everything from toilet paper to clips to everything else. That's the mentality. You have a price point that separates the low point, and you have an athlete, a business owner, a member that truly values the gym, takes care of the gym because that's their home. They're paying for it. And they also take pride in letting other people who don't look after the gym before my staff do. You know, we've had many members that have said, hey, excuse me, man, I know you're a day pass, but you need to take your weights off the machine. We don't do that yet. I don't have to do nothing.
So where do you position this then against the other ones? Like, I don't want to share anything that's confidential, but roughly, like, how's your price points if you want to come here, monthly membership or day pass? You know, where are you on that?
So the day passes are $3. 30.
Oh, $30.
Yeah.
I
Man,
mean,
the accent. $30. 30. Yeah. Don't be coming out saying $3. And then we have a week pass, which is $99. And then we have our membership rollouts, right? So I won't get into the membership side of things, but we have different price points for military, different price points for 12 months, all paid in full. And we have a good portion of members, but when I created the gym, I never thought that, I hoped, but I never thought that the tourism would be where it is. It supersedes all my sort of activation plans and what I thought, all my rollouts, all my speculations. I thought memberships would be where they're at, and I thought tourism kind of be a little bit under. Oh my God, on the scale of things, just like that. And
because you were saying, like, there's a big event on in town this week, EDC, and you were saying that a lot of people in the gym are at that. You know, it's an electronic music event, and they're coming in here.
They love to get their little pump on, and well, I say little, sorry. They get their pump on before they go to these events, and that's the great thing about Vegas too. There's always something going on. Like I said, this weekend is EDC, and EDC is one of the biggest dance festivals. You know, you're gonna have. I mean, we can find that number out, but I won't even say. I'd say on the low end, tens of thousands, but I don't even know what really it is. And there's so many different stages, so many of the biggest DJs, and they're in here right now training too. The guys who are playing the next couple of days are training here too. So it's events like that bring in massive crowds from all over the country. Again, filming, posting. That's one of the reasons why we don't market, because it's different demographics. And you were saying you don't do any for those events. You're not doing any marketing. People are just, you know, people know, and they're finding you through social media. They come in and they truly have this place as one of the bucket list things to do when they come into the events. So obviously, you know, listen, the Mr. Olympia event every single year is going to be an absolute manic event. This year it's in Florida. Last year it was in Vegas. The year before that was in Florida. The year before that was in Vegas. Next year's back in Vegas. So we now know how wild the gym was, and we really prepared for it. We truly prepared for it. But you can't truly prepare for the manic influx of people that came in. It was bananas in here. We done some run-throughs, and just on the photo wall itself, millions of impressions. Just shared and stuff like this, just on that photo wall itself outside the gym. But with the events that happen all the time here in Vegas, all the way from PBR, bull riding, to these dance events, to several different bodybuilding shows scattered throughout the year, we have, you know, bursts of people that come in. So, and that's
the UFC as well.
UFC, yeah.
Fall into what you guys doing here? Is that part of it, or not really?
Not really. I mean, I'm out of, you know, I got to say this, out of rugby, UFC is the sport I follow. I don't follow football, baseball, basketball, any American culture sport. Sorry, guys. UFC is my sport. I came here to Vegas with a game plan of being able to be in the circle of connections 3 years. And it took me 3 months. And I was invited when the whole world was shut down to attend a number of UFC events where there was only limited production crew. There was Dana, Hunter Campbell, there was Joe Rogan, Daniel Cormier, Daniel Arnick, and everybody was kind of spaced out, and there was me sitting on a single deck chair, all dressed in black, was the only rules, can't yell, can't shout, and I'm thinking to myself, I've been here 2 months. How did this happen? But how it happened was, Hunter Campbell, who's the CBO of the UFC, has purchased gym equipment from us at Arsenal Strength. He follows me on Instagram, even though he doesn't have an account. He knows how much of a fan I am of UFC. I mean, I've been posting and I've known some of these guys personally for years. Long before they were champions too. So it was kind of like, hey, you wanna come? And I was like, yeah, let's go. So full circle, the UFC, to answer your question, doesn't really bring anything in on the week-to-week fights. We have, some spin-offs, but nothing that spikes massively like EDC or PBR or, the things that I mentioned, bodybuilding shows. But when we have fight week here, which is coming up in July, it's a full rollout of UFC. So you have a lot of athletes coming in. There's massive activation things that go on throughout the city. And there's several different days that have different fights, big fights. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I believe. So that brings in a crowd for the gym too. And also we got Formula One that's coming up here. They're going to be taking over the whole city. And that's going to be a massive thing for us too. So, we can prepare for stuff, but again, when you walked in here this morning, there's a lot of people here all excited, all ready, all getting their swole on before tonight's, party. And it's just a different face and a different event they're connected to.
That must be quite fun because you sort of, I guess it's not a traditional business when you've got that flow of different people. Mm-hmm. There must be, you must be quite sort of proud and I guess satisfied that you created something that's unique as this. It'd be, I'm sure for many people listening, this would be their sort of dream come true having this.
I don't know, I'm wired differently and I don't want for people to listen to this and think he doesn't sound like, he's happy at all. I am. I am, but I also know what this truly can become. Mm. And if I was to sit here content, then I'm doing a disservice to the 2 decades, shall I say, that I've done in bodybuilding. Because not one year, not from the start to the very end show, did I ever think or feel that, I've done this. I'm happy. Don't get me wrong. Like, you can look back on my accolades and be like, that was a tough prep. I'm glad I done that. But I never had any show that I was just overwhelmed with excitement. It was more of a bag of relief, like, okay, I've done it. Because you're just so focused. And then when you hear your name called, yes. So that same mentality I have now in business, where I have several different businesses and we have these goals to reach, and I hit them, I'm on to the next. I don't really have much time to sit down and celebrate and cheer and stuff. I don't know. I don't allow myself to do that. I actually am more proud about my bodybuilding now. And I talk about it because it's kind of come and gone. I'm not that guy anymore. I think it's humility that stopped me from allowing myself to talk about it of old, because I was an active competitor. But now I'm retired. I can talk about, I done it, But the business now has replaced that mindset.
How do you get the balance? Like I'm the same. I've been in business for a long time, and I'm like you. It's always, where I am now is where I would never believed I could have been.
Yeah.
However, where I think I should be is somewhere totally different. And I wrestle this in my mind in terms of like, how do you get that balance between, look, I'm just so happy and grateful for what I've got, but not but not losing that motivation to want to do something else. You know, I guess that's just maybe that's the art of happiness, maybe.
Yeah.
But how do you wrestle between those two things? So you're not losing, because, you know, just this moment that today, and you know, seeing the people coming in and talking to you, and you know, you're designing your studio next door, and you know, everything's you're expanding the leg room.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot going on. It's very exciting, but you know, do you worry that you might or sometimes sort of be so focused on something else that you miss some of that?
Yeah, good question. And I know you know how I feel, but I just by you explaining how you just said I was listening, I was nodding. I was like, this is the answer. One of the reasons why I retired from bodybuilding is because I put in 3 years into trying to stay in the game and become the first ever champ. Nobody ever done it. I wanted to be the first ever. Conor McGregor is a massive inspiration to me. You know, came from very humble beginnings. You know, regardless of what you think of him, you cannot knock the fact that this guy talked everything that he's achieved and more into fruition. Law of attraction, whatever. I love it. I think his storyline is and I got goosebumps, look, because there's so much I can see of myself in his journey, and we've never met. You know, we're so close. We've been sponsored by the same people, but that's aside the point. But I look at what he's achieved, and he's always up in the bar. He's always never sitting on his hands. And the money that guy has in the bank, and he still wants to fight. Just think of the DNA that guy has. He's set for life. He's probably at this point in time, I would say his kids are set, right? That's a lot of people throw that out way too much, but I think his kids are set now because of what he's done. And not that I compare myself to Conor McGregor, because you can't do that. It's unhealthy. It's two different worlds. But I see what he's done, and on his journey to where he's going, he's invested in relationships, he's invested in companies. I've done very similar. Arsenal Strength was one of them companies I invested in 2015. But what I sat back and I looked at was the fact that 3 years I tried absolutely everything to stay as the champ. COVID happened, I had gut issues, I hired 3 specialists, nothing could done. I mean, I'd done everything, I crossed every I crossed every T, dotted every I. And in the end, we found out my wife was pregnant, and I was like, this is time. When you have that thought in your head as an athlete, you have to listen to it. Now, once in my career, every tear I've had, every health, every whatever it would be, whatever issue, injury, setback, it was just bring it on. Turn your hat back to front, just like somebody saying to me, you can't do it. But when that moment that pops up in my head, it's like, I think you might be it. Can't ignore that. And it's not a defeatist thing. It's because I knew in my heart of hearts this day that I'd done everything in my power to try to stay in the game. 3 years, a lot of money I spent on trying to heal my stomach, and you can't take days off food. So what I was trying to do was just put a Band-Aid on an open wound. And for me to have total gut health, I would have to stop eating and truly heal myself a little bit better. And when I found out, I said my wife was pregnant, I said that I need to be here. I need to be focused. I need to be a dad that needs to be present and enjoy this chapter. I have a beautiful, you know, soon to be 8-year-old going on 18 daughter that is truly grown up so fast, and she was there for a lot of these trophies. You know, she was there. My goal was one of the years, and as I reinvented my why, was to bring my daughter up on stage to have a photo. So she's literally grown up in the sport.
Did you do that? Did you get her on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes, I'll show you. It's my screensaver for my phone. And I wanted that to happen, and she grew up, and Dad is on the road a lot, you know. I felt I was one of the bodybuilders that had true balance. I made sure of it. I didn't take every appearance on. I didn't take every event on, and we could have had a lot more money in the bank, but nonetheless, I would have lost that time. And knowing that, and even though I was as balanced as I was, I still, when I prep, you know, you're so focused, you know what I'm talking about. Life goes like Matrix style. And next thing you've done prep, it's like, oh man, I'm eating food again. I'm happy, and oh man. And then you look at your daughter, and she's, 4 months older. And I didn't want that to happen on this circling of, my new life that I brought into the world. And obviously, my son, I have the best of both worlds. My son's birth for me, just like my daughter's, was like life changing. It's probably like the top, 3 things in my life that I've experienced. And I just wanted, more than anything else, I wanted to be present. And what really happened then was all my businesses got me back, because I was growing everything in and around me and the brand. And I had my staff working for me, but there's nothing like leading from the front. And I know I'm a born leader. Again, I can motivate myself, but also I need to motivate the people around me. And there's times where I've gone into different business endeavors, and I was in prep, and they should have been a lot better. Let's put it like this. And now with my businesses that I have around me, in and around me, everything has really scaled significantly. So having that sharpness, the tenacity, the drive, and not having the calorific, the calorific cut that I was going through. Because as you know, when you start cutting food, you start cutting energy. And then
mental energy as well.
And then what you start doing is prioritizing that mental energy and the physical energy for your workouts. And the rest of the time, you're just trying to go through life without falling on your face, especially the conditioning that I got in. So now I'm in a position now that I've been able to be creative, give back, pass forward, pass back, do things that I wasn't able to do in the years that I was competing within the industry and out of the industry. So I'm truly excited, and I would say the same drive and the same enthusiasm I get now is from getting from my businesses.
You must have had a lot to think about, and I know we both you've interviewed Alex Samosi, and I met him as well, and we had him on our podcast. And one of the things I like about his philosophy is focus. He's almost like stripping everything back and just going really deep and doing one thing well. And he also mentions that's a trait. Focus is a trait, and you're either really good at it or not. I'm not particularly. I struggle sometimes. I like and to my detriment, and I have to work on keeping that focus. How's that applied in what you do? Because you're a bodybuilder, you're a businessman, a sort of personality, celebrity. You're a number of things. How do you do you deal with that quite easily, or do you have to also try to maintain a certain amount of focus and in order to be as successful as you can be?
I would say I'm super focused and super unfocused. I will be, okay, I am going there, and I'm there, and then saying, squirrel. I got rife at ADHD, but again, I do a lot of different things. And what I've noticed is there's a systematic approach to how I need to do things. The saying is, make a plan to fail, right? So knowing these bad characteristics that I have and the good characteristics that I have, for me to get to this, for me to do this, and this, then I have to have my own plan.
Structure. Yeah. Right.
And that's what bodybuilding brought, because it's the same monotonous thing every single day. And if you structure your life like that, and using bodybuilding, again, as the tool to everything that has been created through having that structure, it took me a while to be like, hey, listen, you have had a lesson in life that you can't read, you can't be taught, you have to live. And that's through day in, day out. And I taught myself through structure, through commitment, that no matter what, I am getting to X. And X was a show. X was whatever date that was, Mr. Olympia or Mr. Wales, Junior Mr. Wales. Come rain or shine, injury, God forbid, health, death, whatever it would be, breakups, girlfriends. I'm doing that show. It's the same thing for business. Business is, I am doing this no matter what. Shit hits the fan, okay, I'll deal with it, work through it, still go into there. You don't deviate from the plan. You don't sit on your hands and you don't cry and why me, poor me. I don't like that mentality. I don't have that mentality. I don't cry. I don't. I get pissy because I demand greatness from myself, and I always have. But I realize now that these are tools that I have subconsciously learnt through competing bodybuilding. And bodybuilding has taught me so much, man. Unbelievable lesson in life. I mean, there's so much correlation, as I said, between bodybuilding and business. When you marry them together, you'd be like, oh yeah. And you mentioned Alex Amosi. He's also a bodybuilder, right? He loves to train. And his mentality to business is off the chart.
Yeah, he's a very, very smart guy.
Very smart guy. Prioritizes certain things over many other things that he could, again, Jim, as great a shape as he is, and Alex trains you, sometimes I don't see him for a couple of weeks. I hit him up. I was like, hey, where the hell you been? It's like, oh, I've been working. I know you've been working. You're always working. What are you working on? I'm working on this book. I'm nearly done. When are you coming back when are you going to see daylight? When are you coming back to the gym? I'll come back in a week. And then this guy walks in the exact same shape as what he did without training for like 3 weeks. But the guy is an absolute stud, and them are the people I mean when I say I'm surrounded by sharp individuals, because when you talk to somebody like Alex, he talks a different chord. He doesn't talk like in like a you're my friend, like relaxed. He's always kind of like, there's a plan of action. He's talking, and this is how me pretend to be Alex. There's this game plan to everything. And even if we're talking about bodybuilding, or we're talking about training, or we're talking about business or everything else, it all sounds the same. Like I did an event for Alex. I spoke at his event.
Yeah, GymCon, wasn't it?
Yeah. I flew out to Florida. Incredible. Layla, his wife, I want to mention too, she's an absolute savage. My wife, again, and her are very close. They're good friends. And, I look at Layla and Alex, and they are like the ultimate power couple. They kind of complement each other tremendously, but they're not the same. They are two different people, but are a business. It's incredible how their dynamic is. And just how they talk, walk, and act. Like I done that event, and I just got to hear the engagement and the mental gems that they were speaking to the audience. And you just can see these people are just soaking it up. And, this isn't like a pre-rehearsed thing. They live this life. I'm around a lot of different speakers. They do one thing and they act another. There's people that say they're this and this, I'm alpha, and then they're eating pizza and they're living a different life. These guys are who they are, and when you get around people like this, you cannot, like I said, but get better.
What do you do when things are tough? I was reading an article, and I think it was in 2021, where you mentioned you had to take a step back, you were miserable, and you needed to get yourself back on track. Like, how do you deal with things? What's your way of coping when it doesn't go to plan and success isn't there and it's totally the opposite?
You got to find like the core root of your love for something. And like, I've never trained somebody in my life, never done personal training, never done online training, never been interested in doing it, and I'm sure I've missed out on millions in that.
Yeah, I think that surprised me, actually.
Not to say that I won't do it in the future, but when I was actively competing, for me to keep my passion alive, I had to make sure that my gym time was my gym time, because it was a love-hate relationship. I'm sure you can attest to that. But if I spent more time in the gym, I would hate the gym. Training somebody, and also I demand excellence from myself, and unfortunately, other people don't demand it from themselves. So if I was to give my knowledge, my experience, my passion into helping somebody, and then they went home and they didn't follow my I just can't deal with that. I don't deal with it. I'm trying to find the word. Don't deal with it. Like I said, it's come from humble beginnings. And one of the reasons, and to answer your question, is, you know, I grew up in a household where my dad worked in the steel factory. You know, he just retired a number of years ago now, but he was there for 47 years working in steel, tin plate. My mum was a nurse. She was made retired. She had disc-genital hips when she was young, and unfortunately, both hips went when she was working as a nurse. So I see my mother go through battles, struggles, crying, trying to hide it from us boys. One income coming into the house, and you know, we're all playing on the computer as a kid. The electric goes off, tokens, you know, all that stuff. I had to get pennies and together. I seen it all. So how do I get motivated? I mean, I've got enough shit in my head. I call it Pandora's box, that whenever I feel sorry for myself, I think to myself, what is the reason why I'm here? Why did I leave my family in the UK to come to this country? Was it for me, or was it for the whole family? It's for the whole family. So when I start getting down and I feel like, oh, poor me, I think to myself, poor me. Look around. Shut up and get on your feet and start working, because this is just temporary. I'm not injured. Nobody's dead. My health is in check. 2 hands, 2 feet, eyes, ears, mouth. I can get out of any situation. I got cheeky charm. I got this Welsh accent with this incredible beard. A little too far, I know. But I know that if I'm feeling that way, it's okay to feel that way as long as you work through it. And I've had my moments. I've had some, and I don't mind saying this. You know, I've gone through a recognizable depression stage when I lost Dallas. One of my he was like a little brother to me, not so little, but, and I just was very kind of down, and it was the fans that pulled me out of it. I was kind of kicking rocks for a long time, because he passed away 2 weeks before 3 weeks before the Olympia. So I know I've said this many times, so excuse me if you've heard this story before, the viewers watching, but Dallas passed 3 weeks before. Then we had this massive hurricane was coming in, and we thought we were going to lose the house. We had to board up the house in this process, went to Dallas's funeral, came back, continued in prep. Like I said, we thought we were going to lose the house, then we had to leave. So we stayed 2 weeks in a hotel in Las Vegas, prepped out of a hotel with a little baby that was 1 year old. And I had to be an autopilot. And thanks to my wife, who was also grieving, she didn't show it. And everybody else who was really close to kind of put me in a bubble wrap. And every time I started thinking about it, they were like, come on, this is for Dallas. So I didn't face grieving until everything had finished. So I went to the Olympia, I went to the Korean Grand Prix, which I shouldn't have gone to. And then when all the dust settled, Christmas and everything else, that's when it hit me. 3-4 months later. Oh. And it was a very tough time, because I felt I couldn't talk to anybody. Everybody else was over the death. Everybody kind of was faced it. They were talking, celebrating his life, and then it was just like, man, what the hell? He's not around, you know? All his belts, straps are still around my gym, and it was just very tough times. But of course, being the, you know, blue collar mentality that I grew up through watching my dad and my grandfather and stuff like that. My grandfather's a miner. I never seen my dad cry, never seen my grandfather cry. You just don't get upset. You just hold it in, and you kind of wear it as like this badge of honor, right? You're like, tough it out. You can't tough it out. You got to break at some point in time. And for me, I had that breaking point. And it wasn't until FIBO, which was, I believe, April, that I went to FIBO. It was the first big event. And everybody was kind of like, oh, excited for the Olympia. Are you going to do it? You know, are you competing again? Because quite truthfully, me and Dallas and many of my close team knew that was going to be my last 212, number 6. I never thought about doing number 7. In fact, every year was never going to be another one. But number 6 was going to be probably the time that I said that was it. And I never did the retirement speech on stage, because I didn't want it to be focused around that. I wanted to be focused around Dallas. And like I said, April came. I had the massive mentality check, thanks to the fans. And, you know, the fans have always been a massive part of my whole career. You know, from a 20-minute line, the same faces stood in a 3-hour line as the years went on. So these people came, encouraged me, said, let's do it. And I said that was the year that I was going to bring the best ever look in, the best prep. I convinced myself and spoke it into existence. There was not going to be a bitter day. There was not going to be a shitty training session. There was not going to be a missed meal. Not that I ever missed a meal, but there was not going to be any element to look back on and say, I lost the show because of this, this, and this. I done everything. So if I was beaten that year, which everybody was there that year, and everybody was hyping everybody up, but me to win, and I kind of walked out, and I wanted that crowd reaction. The moment that I stepped out on stage and that light hit me for the first time, to be the silencer, and everybody kind of went, and that's it. Now I got goosebumps.
That was the moment.
That was the moment. I mean, that's the right moment I trained for 6 months for. To hear that crowd reaction, walking out, that 1 second kind of gasp cheer to end my career on. And I was able to do it. But again, that mentality now has shifted into the endeavors I'm doing right now. And I think once you've dealt with things like I mentioned, depression, and you've dealt with you know, loss, it definitely hardens you up, and it definitely makes you appreciate life more. Because up until that point, you know, you see these, what look like immortal athletes, physiques. This guy, he's not going to get taken down. He's built like a rhinoceros and passes away. Puts a lot of perspective on things. And you kind of have to hit the brakes. And again, when I created life then, when my son was around, I was like, that was the time. Now was the time. Now was the time for me to start building their legacy up and creating a future for them. And Daddy's done what he was destined to do, what people believed in him long before I believed in myself. You know, my goal was to become the best bodybuilder in the world. And I came into the sport when Ronnie Coleman was the champ. And I believed that I was going to be up there. Not necessarily winning, but I was going to be up there as one of the best, and my goal was to solidify myself as one of the best. And now I can truly walk away with, you know, the fans saying things about me, but yet making sure that my story is told how it should be. Because I'm a kid from Wales that came here with a dream. I didn't have any handouts. I didn't know a judge. I never went through the NPC. I had to earn my stripes in this country. I slept on the sofa, and now I'm able to, you know, tell that story to the world of literally never giving up. Focus, be committed to your path, dream big, have a moral compass. Don't try to screw somebody over for $1. Do it the right way, the long way, and then you'll have a career where people will talk about your legacy forever. And that's what I'm still working on to this day.
Where do you go when you're in a situation where the answer is beyond what you sort of rationally or logically know how to solve? And so it's like, look, I'm at a level, I've hit a ceiling, whether it's in your training, you've got a lot of businesses and you know, moving to new countries, etc. Like where do you go in yourself when you get to that? And it's like, I don't know where to go next, but I know I've got to figure something out to get to that next. So how do you deal with those things?
Explain one more time.
So let's say you're in a situation, whether it's new business, moving to a new country, whether it's you've hit some kind of ceiling and you realize that you don't have the answer. Mentally and logically, you no matter how much you think about it, it's like, I don't know how to get beyond there. How do you figure something out when you don't know the answer?
A few different things, because this has happened to me. Sometimes just taking a break away from overly thinking is the best answer. Just take a step away. Just put it down. Whatever that is, just put it down for a little bit. And it could be as simple as take a drive, and don't think about it, and then come back to it. Or, put it down for a week. If it's a time-sensitive thing, then I would involve somebody else to try and help me break through that plateau. Thankfully, as I said, I've got some really good people in so many different genres. People who go to the gym just to keep healthy, but they're savages in business, built multi-million-dollar companies, billion-dollar portfolios, and actually companies that have gone and scaled to billions. And then I've got other genres who are athletes, again, different people. So, but that hasn't come overnight. That has come from, again, me treating people right, and also time, allowing people to truly see themselves, right? So everybody wants to talk a good game when they meet you first. Everybody is somebody when they meet you. And now that I'm in the position I'm in, everybody's kind of showing their best selves, right? But I also know who the tried and tested ones are out there. So when I hit a ceiling on something, which I'm actually, funnily enough, I went through the same thing last night. I was on a business call with two of my partners, and we're thinking of a marketing strategy to do with the business. And what we done was, and that was last night's call, we said, let's circle back in a week, and everybody bring their own different variable ideas to the table. And last night, let me tell you something, 3 of us had 3 different ideas, and we all married them together, and we came up with a marketing plan.
A better one, yeah.
And I had mine, and I was like, oh, this is the one. This is the one, right? This is the one. So it became the foundation, but then his sort of idea influenced this, and then his idea influenced this, and then we've brought this collective sort of marketing plan together now, and again, that's the one we're going with. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does, and I think because sometimes I've been in business, and I know a lot of people, depending on the stage they're in business, almost like get to this position where it's hopeless. They don't know what to do, and a lot of gyms at the moment are also in that position. It's like, well, where do I go? I don't know how to sort of break through, and I think you're right. Sometimes it's take a break or take a rest, and just when you are stressed, you're not probably recovered and you're not thinking correctly. Mm-hmm. But I think sometimes it's as difficult it is, and you mentioned it. It's not the thing. Certainly not what my father does, or men in general are very good at. But almost saying, look, I don't know the answer to this. Being a little bit vulnerable, and I share that experience with you, where you put a few people together and you tend to get a much better answer than trying to sort of, spin your wheels in your own mind.
Absolutely, because you have lived a life differently to me. So it may be something that you have, experienced, maybe something that you have been privy to hearing, whatever that is, right? But again, your knowledge is not mine. And I think when you have different people around you, it truly betters you. And that's the advice that I've always tried to give a lot of bodybuilders too, is stop keeping yourself in this Joe Weider's square, Joe Weider's circle. The money is outside of that. I've always seen myself as an athlete. It's one of the reasons why I'm the only athlete to get endorsed by Monster. It's why I'm the only athlete to be endorsed by different companies way outside the sport. But that sponsorships then puts me in collective groups with so many different athletes. Motocross, Formula One, NASCAR, skateboarding, wakeboarding, surfing, the list goes on, that I would never get from bodybuilding. But that's the brand, Flex Lewis, thinking like that as an athlete, not as just a bodybuilder. Oh my God, I want to be the biggest guy in the world. It's like, that's default. You got to have networking powers. As a business owner, same mentality. Don't keep yourself in the gym genre, right? How are you going to get better is by having friends who are doing different things in different genres, are doing cool things that can bring value to you as much as you can bring value to them. If you all are in the same genre, then you're kind of in the hamster wheel of conversation.
Everyone's doing the same thing as everyone else.
Yeah, it's kind of a boring conversation in my eyes, right? But when you've got people who are doing some incredible things and they become friends of yours, that's motivation. And then it's not like you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, but you want to better yourself because your friend is doing some cool things or your business associate is doing something cool things. So it just, maybe that is your get up in the morning, don't hit the snooze button. Because you are required now by default to be like, okay, let's go. I don't know if you know Wes Watson, but Wes Watson's is an incredible guy, crazy as hell. I interviewed him on my podcast not so long ago, and he's very cerebral, very deep thinker. I mean, he had a lot of time to read a lot of books. He had a lot of vacation time, aka prison. But he's become one now in this country as one of the leading personal speakers, you know, big speakers in the industry. And if you listen to his words, if you listen to his message, he's very aggressive in how he puts it forth. Too scary for some people, but for me, I get a different version. But he's an incredible individual. And I've got so many different people I could mention. I just mentioned him is because he gets up every single day at 2:30 in the morning, no matter where he is. 2:30 in the morning, because his mentality when he was in prison was he would get up at the same time, do his workout, and then he was first in line for chow. First in line to control the line, first in line. First. I won't be beaten, I'm first. That mentality now is every day with him. So when that alarm goes off, he's up. Like, I've texted him too. I'll be like, yo! He's like, been up 2 hours, bro, what are you talking about? I'll text him if I'm on the East Coast. Yo! He lift me back straight away. Listen, as much as people want to say that there's no way he gets every time I've tested him, he's up. Every time he's doing his thing, he posts his story every day. And you can say, oh, well, he might have, when you're getting up at the dawn, you can see, he's in Miami right now. He's posting in Miami. He's in California last week. There's a certain color to the sky that you know you get at that time of the morning.
And it's not easy to do that when you're changing time zones.
Not easy, but again, my point of bringing that up is that's his non-compromise to himself.
Yeah.
No matter where I'm at, he goes, I've been gifted with an ability now to do what I'm doing, and I have to be committed to this lifestyle that I'm preaching. And after I spoke with him twice, and then I had him on the podcast, and I was thinking to myself, man, I'm not getting up at 2:30 in the morning, but I will start getting up at 4. And that, actually it started at 5, because it's a bit of a shock for me. I'm a night owl. I get up very productive. When everybody's gone to bed, my wife's sleeping, the kids are sleeping, I am running and gunning. But what I found was there was a lot of procrastination in and around me being up that late.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I'm stuck on Instagram, and I don't mean to do it, but I'm like, okay. And I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go to bed. When you get up in the morning, I know I have this window. I have to get everything done before my boy wakes up at 6, and my daughter wakes up as well. So that's my quiet time. I get up. My wife now is on the same plan as me, you know, and she's always been an early riser, but now I was beating her to the punch. Now she's kind of like, who's getting up fastest?
I think putting those things in, you know, whether it helps or not, I think having that discipline to do things that are difficult, a little bit like the training, like I've not, you know, I don't need to train, but bodybuilding and that weightlifting for me is that thing that centers me with everything in life, you know, whether it's a good day, whether it's a bad day, whether I'm traveling, whether I've, you know, had a good diet or bad diet. Like for me, that kind of just brings my life back into order. If I don't have that, it seems to just, I almost like I just lose control of things. You know, it's very easy to get away. And I'm like you, I can be super focused, but I can also be distracted. And just getting in there, I don't know, it just seems to focus my thoughts. It just puts everything else into balance. And that's probably why I've been doing it since I've been 15 and still do it to this day.
It's a massive part of your life. We spoke off camera because you competed as a junior, as as did I, right? So we both have that connection. But there's something that you've carried throughout your life, and that is, you know, you, regardless of the businesses and all your successes and everything that you've incredibly created, you still go back to that 20-year-old boy that was training for his show, because that in you has been the foundation truly to everything you succeed in a sense, right? Because it's something that's aligned you. It's reminded you to your humble beginnings. And I remember going to the gym with my eyes closed so vividly. Remember playing rugby games, mud on my knees. I would leave the rugby field, drive to the local gym. The gym owner was pissed because I had mud on my knees and everything else. I'd be doing standing calf raises because I wanted big calves, right? And they were big then, but I made them bigger. And I would do legs, and I would kill myself because on the rugby field, I didn't touch the ball. As the wing, we never had the ball. I maybe scored if it was a good day, but I still went to the gym because I found that the love I had for the gym, there was nothing like it on this earth. The moment I walked in there, it was me against the weights, me versus me. There was nobody there that I stood next to that could make me great, like on a rugby field. Nobody that passed me the ball to score, or I had to stand there in freezing rain being in Wales. It was me in the gym. If I wanted to kick my own ass, I had to do it, you know? Yeah. So them days are still fresh in me. And I also remember what it was like to have that love, that passion, and not know that I could make money from this.
Well, yeah, yeah.
So then it went full circle where I was like, I can get paid to train? Yeah, in a sense, you know, from competing, but still it was like, wow. So I played very high level rugby. I run for my country. I'd done a lot of different sports, and I excelled in them. I could have chose very different paths. I had scholarships to go and play for rugby, Harlequins, and I stayed local. We ended up winning the British colleges rugby cup. Some of these guys went on to play for Wales, still do, coaching for Wales as well. And they followed my career just as much as I followed their career. And I had the nickname Flex since 6 years old, and they will tell me, along with my mother and everybody else, that I was destined to be a bodybuilder. And obviously, you know, when I ended up coming out here and doing a lot of different things, and then doing stuff on TV, and it gets back home in the UK, there's been, like I said, the support and everything else has been tremendous. But, you know, the humble beginnings, the humble roots, the passion and the love that I felt in the gym, that's what I had to keep nurtured. That's what I had to keep as my center point. Because to your question there was one point where I fell out of it, and then I had to realize why. And when I discovered the why, it just disappeared within a couple of days, and I was back to feeling that love again for what I came to this country from. And I think what that was, I put so much pressure on myself to succeed, put so much pressure on myself to be number one, that year off allowed me to put that, you know, that timber on my frame, fall in love with the process again, as opposed to being pushed by sponsors, because the sponsors here were putting a lot of pressure on me, and truly do it for me, because I came to this country for me to be the best, not for me to be the best for a company. I then got back to my center point and was like, okay, this is for me. You know, this is what I want to do. This is why I left my family, and this is why I am now going to prove everybody right that believed in me and everybody wrong that didn't.
Well, look, I'm going to finish off. We talked about bodybuilding. I got some sort of like relatively quick fire questions on training and workout that I'm sure a lot of people are interested in, particularly me. A few selfish ones in here as well. So first question, what's Yoda 3?
It's Neil's. It's Y3T. So Yoda 3 training. It's basically 3 different weeks. Week 1, week 2, week 3. Week 1 is heavy compound, lower reps. Week 2 is kind of like a hybrid of the third week. Rep ranges on the second week goes up a little bit higher. On the third week, so it kind of answers number 2, is high reps, drop sets, supersets. So every single week you get a different stimulus, and then you repeat it all over again. So that's something that Neil was doing way before it became something. And I was like, Neil, like, why isn't this got a name? Why, like, and he was like, well, what the hell is this? No, this is not a training style, because everybody was trying to do a training style back then. And I was like, just make a name for it. And I was like, I'll call it something. 3 weeks here. Your name's Yoda. Y3T. He was like, I like that. So that was it. And then I started talking about it like it's there for life. But we've been doing it since I was like 19. So it's nothing that was created. This was something that was just put a name to. And of course, people were like, you only created this because you wanted to be cool, you know, whatever. Yeah, bullshit. But this is a system that he's been doing for a number of years. And as you can see, the proof is in the pudding, you know. I prefer, if I was to say anything, which I've done more predominantly, is the week 3. It's a little bit of a hybrid between week 3 and week 2. Traveling around the world, you can't be doing week 1. You're going into somebody's gym, you don't know the equipment, you're trying to train that style, you can't do that. So a little bit of a combo of week 2, leaning more into week 3, where it's more of a higher rep. But then when I was home, I kind of done the week 3, I'd done the Y3T along with a hybrid of week 2, week 3. Anytime I trained with Neil, which was, you know, Neil would come in periodically because he was living in the UK at that time until I got him here full time. He'd just take over the workout. And that's great for me because as I said many times, I would lead the workout. So I'd be like, listen, Neil. And it was such a nice relief to be on neat coaches coming into town for the next couple of months. He's taking the workouts. You wear that hat. I would just have to turn up, get my ass kicked. Enjoy the workout. Sorry, I'm reminiscing as we're talking.
Okay.
Quick fire, these are supposed to be. Sorry, man. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll improve.
In general, off season, where you are now, light versus heavy.
260 off season. Lightest I've ever been is no.
Right. And in terms, sorry, I should have put that differently. In terms of weight, like when you're training, like heavy weight, low rep.
I think I meant physical weight. Well, the biggest I've ever been was 260, which is huge for me.
Yeah.
But in terms of throwing on a weight, I did love throwing on heavy weight. The strongest I've ever been was training with Dallas, which is arguably one of the strongest bodybuilders ever to be on this earth. The guy was pound for pound, incredibly strong. Massive detriment for me to making my 212 weight because the weight was going up and my body mass was going up too. So I kind of had to change that training style.
Right. Fast versus slow in terms of when you're exercising reps, you're slow.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about me in the bedroom, but yeah, fast versus slow. A little bit of both, because again, you know, if you're training legs, there's no fast leg workouts. You take your time, you know, you pace out your workouts. Mentally, you're putting in a lot of reps. I'm a volume guy. Of course, if somebody looked to me from afar, there's a lot of weight in the machine, but I'm like a 30 rep guy. I think that stimulation for legs in particular, because we're on our feet all day long, needs to come with high volume and high stress pressure, forced reps, mental game, on point, training partners, forcing their reps out, saying things consciously, saying things unconsciously at the right times, at the right reps needed. I'm going back
Sounds
into
intense,
that.
does.
Yeah.
How many sets do you do per body part?
Between 20 and 24.
20 and 24. Right. Okay. Yeah. What in terms of workout duration typically? Where are you on that?
Hour to an hour and a half. Right. Bigger body parts, legs and back, hour and a half. Smaller body parts, hour or less.
Right.
In and out.
And how many body parts per week?
I would train one body part per day. I wouldn't. Arms would be combined or separated. So sometimes, my last training system was Sunday legs, Monday morning hamstrings.
Right.
A couple hours later chest, back. I'd have 2 days off a week off. Wednesday was one, and then on Thursday I would do shoulders. Friday would do arms. Saturday off. So, you know, I trained with Dorian when I was young a few times. Dorian would, I remember telling Dorian that I went 10 days straight training, and he'd be like, what is wrong with you? You need to be taking at least 4 days off a week. I was like, 4 days off a week?
Yeah, he was one body part a week, wasn't he, Dorian?
But it was wild. But he'd also do, you know, that one body part straight into, you know, you do chest and you do calves and arms. But for me, I've done so many different training styles, so many different combinations. And I've trained with the best in the world, the best of the best. And I feel like I've taken everything and I put it together. And then if Neil is not training me, I have my own kind of style of training.
Favorite body parts to train?
My weakest one is chest.
Is it?
It's the most stubborn body part I've suffered with my whole career, and my favorite body part to train. I couldn't wait to train chest. I couldn't wait because it was absolute dog compared to my other body parts.
And obviously your legs are not weak. How do you enjoy training legs?
Who does enjoy training legs? It's a sadistic love. You go into the gym knowing, I would actually drive to the gym nervous.
About leg day.
Yes, and every day.
Scare yourself.
Yeah, and it would be brutal. And there'd be many videos, many sessions where my lower back would be destroyed. And I'm on Florida, used to get incredibly hot, you know, and it would heat up that asphalt, that tarmac. One of the best things to do is lie on that tarmac, and that heat would just take that back pump away and back into the gym. So I would say my leg days were absolutely brutal. I paid the price for it. I brought in the training partners who were known for having some of the best developed legs and some of the strongest guys. But then again, so it just makes that mentality sharpened. You know, I didn't want to show weakness in front of these younger guys. Again, they're going in, they're like, put another plate on. I was like, put 2 on for me. Let's go.
What's your favorite exercise or exercise machine?
Anything Arsenal strength.
Anything else? That's a good answer. And maybe we convince you to try some escape as well.
Oh, yeah. I've seen what you guys are doing, and congratulations on everything you're doing over there, too.
But have you got a machine or whatever that you just kind of like, because you're obviously a bit of a machine connoisseur, and putting your own brand aside, are there any things that you just like, it feels good and you just enjoy getting in it?
I don't put stock into one particular of anything. I'll be honest with you. There's one of the reasons why I have so many different pieces and have had so many different brands of old is because I fall in love with different pieces and I want others to try them pieces. So one of the reasons why I mentioned Arsenal Strength is because it's made by athletes for athletes. So the whole gym, you know, I would say 90% of the gym is Arsenal Strength, and I truly enjoy seeing athletes get on their pieces and kicking their own ass. But there's not one single piece I go, man, I want to train on that every single session. I think what happens is if you develop that habit, it's a bad habit to have, and then you start making that exercise easier for yourself when you should miss that exercise to go back to it. There's a couple of exercises that I would love to do every week, but I stay away from them to recircle back. It's kind of like being away from your wife, you know, right?
That's a good way of putting it, but I know what you mean.
you stay away from your wife or you go away on a business trip, or you do a speak, or you do some business endeavors, and you come back and you see your wife for the first time, and it's like, I missed you. That's my gym equipment experience. Every time I go to the gym or I travel around the world, every time I come back, I'm like,
I asked someone about, what are good habits to put in your life, and they said to me, which always stuck, it's like, you don't want any good habits in your life because habits mean that you're unconscious. So you want to make sure everything you do is conscious, so you're present. And that kind of got me thinking a little about it differently.
Yeah, that is a good one. That's a mental gem for today.
So diet, meat, fish, plant-based. Have you got any preferences there? And I'm talking non-competition.
Right now, vegan. I have right now a design diet that has nothing to do with anybody. Nobody has told me to do this. This is just how I am and how I function. And it gets the best out of me being, a retired bodybuilder and business guy. So I get up in the morning, let's just say I'm up and moving and grooving at 4:30. I do my cardio. I won't eat my first meal until about 9. And that first meal is eggs, bacon, and olive oil. I don't have any carbs. I come to the gym. What I found of old, and just to answer why that question is, you know, that meal is catered like that. If I have carbs, I feel by the time I get to the gym and I start getting on calls and I'm trying to do things with my staff, I feel foggy. And I feel like I'm, mentally not there. So I don't get that way if I don't eat carbs. And normally in my second carb meal is around about 12 o'clock. In fact, it's sitting up there.
Waiting to go.
Yeah, ready to go. And I'll eat that. A couple hours later, I pick up my daughter, and just to tell the viewers, sorry, skipping over that part, but just to tell the viewers, that is a mega fit meal who I have a great relationship with.
For my lunch.
Yeah, they are a company that has been with me, kind of a sponsor plug here, but they've been with me throughout my Olympia career. Incredible company, self-made, great guys, love the business model, love the mentality. I linked up with these, like I said, on the very early stage of growth, and now they're one of the, if not the biggest company in the fitness space because they do it right. They do it right, and I also have a signature line through them.
Yeah, I saw that in the fridge. You've got certain recipes.
Flex Lewis signature meals. That is actually one of my favorite. I consume that too much. I need it's a salmon.
That is a
habit. Yeah. I have so brain trained, but right up there, just to let the viewers know, I've probably got about a cup, a little over a cup, with some steak and some asparagus. I then have 3 hours later, 4 hours later, salmon. So I have a wide diverse of meats and different protein sources. And then before bed, I have the same meal as what I woke up on. So I try not to go to bed with carbs. I sleep a lot better. I mean, I'm 60 pounds lighter than what I was. So of course that helps too. But there's the methodology behind me doing this. And, I've been able to drop weight just by doing that. And right now, I can't get any smaller on the diet I'm on right now. I'd have to starve myself.
And I'm looking across him, and he's huge.
I'm not huge. I used to be. I'm humble enough to recognize that. But the diet element of things, I eat very clean. The bacon is what it is. But it's, very lean cut bacon. I use fats in a lot of my meals, like good fats. I'm a big believer in that too, for brain function and whatnot. And with the weekends, one of the weekends, if not both, I have whatever I want. Not all throughout the weekends. I mean, I still have structure. I still wake up with the same breakfast, and I still go to bed with the same meal. But throughout the day, if I want something, and to be honest, when it comes to the time, I used to do this with bodybuilding too. I'd have a cheat day, cheat meal. I talk myself out of it. I come to the day, and in the end, this became such an issue between me and my coach that my wife literally had to film me eat my cheat meals, because I would look forward to it all week, and then come the day that I was going to cheat, which is it aids significantly in the process of weight loss. It's also something mentally you can look forward to. I would talk myself out of it because I don't need it. And I always say, what is wrong with you? Like, you can have anything you want, and you don't want to know. It's like, maybe we'll have sushi, salmon and rice. Like, I don't like pizza. I don't like none of that stuff.
That's good. Sometimes I feel if I ever have that, I feel worse anyway. So it's like actually.
And with my GI issues, that's kind of what I was setting myself up for. So I'm glad you mentioned that. The GI issues really were a detriment to me throughout my career. So even if I had that cheat meal, I was paying for it that night. So sometimes it was best not to have it, or what I ended up doing was cheating on the same foods I would kind of eat, just more of them. Lunatic. But the weekends now are kind of time with the family, and it's now that I've been able to reset my gut issues, and I had to stop eating the frequencies and the portions that I was eating. I mean, I was eating 7 to 8 meals a day, 10 to 12 ounces of meat per meal. And in some cases, some days I was eating in the upwards of 800 grams of carbs alone. It's a lot of food.
Yeah.
And I was lean. I had to eat more, and I couldn't physically eat. In the end, I was blending 3 of my meals a day, which is chicken breast and rice, which Neil couldn't stand. But anything to get it in, I had to mentally tell myself that was soup. Otherwise, you're thinking that's blended chicken breast and rice, right? It's disgusting. But again, it's a mentality thing, so sorry.
Alcohol, is that anything, do you drink alcohol?
I'm Welsh, mate. What's wrong with you? Come on. I like a good old-fashioned, smoked, old-fashioned.
You got one of those little smokers at home, have you?
My friend's got one of the best restaurants here in town, and it's called Barry's, and we go there and they put it all on, you know, they do it right. So I kind of will only wait to go and have it done there. But outside of that, I mean, not really. No, I mean, I drunk a lot when I played rugby. I've seen the inside of many toilet doors when I played rugby. I've seen the inside of a lot of different bedrooms I didn't want to wake up into. So I was a winger that really knew how to go hard, and I enjoyed myself enough to say, okay, now I'm bodybuilding. I started very young. I mean, you know, in the UK, the drinking age is 18, you start at 15, right?
Yeah.
And when you play rugby, it's kind of a part of the game, it's part of the culture. So I was able to, you know, get away with it there. And by the time that I became 18 and legal enough to drink, I was like, yeah.
I'm over it.
I'm over it. I'm over it. And as the years have gone on, I've kind of, less and less.
Right. And what about supplements? Like, do you substitute protein, or do you get that with your food? Like protein powders, for example.
Excuse me, sorry. I'm sponsored by Yamamoto Nutrition, so they're a phenomenal company based out of Italy. I don't know if you know of them or not.
I've heard of them, yeah. I've not used their product, but I've heard of them.
So, quick backstory of that. I mean, I was signed with a lot of different companies. Well, not a lot, I'm sorry. The main companies that were in the supplement industry. Gaspari Nutrition was one, when they were at their highest and the peak, and shout out to Rich. And then BSN, they signed me after. And what you kind of find out is the majority of this stuff all comes from the same 3 to 4 places. And in the end, I was kind of burnt out with having the stomach issues and going through the same process of how things were flavored and everything else, that I had to look overseas. And overseas, especially in Italy, especially in Japan and stuff like that, they do things differently. They truly batch test before they leave, batch test when they land. If it's off, it goes back. The raw ingredients are nil and void. So how they were doing things was one of the reasons why I was very interested in Yamamoto Nutrition and what they were doing. And I know this kind of sounds like a plug, but it's truly what separates them from the pack. And because of my, as I said, gut issues, I had to seek these. So I signed with these guys, and I've been with them now for a number of years. And, you know, they've been an absolute powerhouse for me behind me in all I've done and continue to do so.
Can you get that in America?
Yeah, they actually were and have been making a plan to break into the industry. It's just very hard because of how they are and what they do. They cost significantly more. But again, it's the equivalent of buying steak and tuna, right? So, but the mentality in the US is, well, this tastes good. It must be good, right? So when you have a product that is not designed around taste, it's designed around what it should be doing, and digestibility and everything else that goes alongside it, you know, it's more knowledge and power. So that's where they're at right now. They're designing a more of a strategy of marketing to education, and they've got a lot of athletes. In fact, they've got the best athletes in the world signed with them. They got Regan Grimes, Brandon Hendrickson, they got Neil Hill, they got myself, they got Rolly Winkler, they've got so many more athletes, like a massive rostrum of athletes, and they're doing it. Like I said, they're doing it right.
What about, do you take anything creatine at all?
I haven't done creatine for a long time. No, not recently. I mean, especially now. I think creatine has a big part in any athlete's gym bag. They should be supplementing with creatine. But in my peak, I was probably taking about 10 to 15 grams a day. Predominantly around my workout. And I've tried it different times too. I've taken it first thing in the morning and you know, kind of like drip feed it throughout the day.
I found one of the, when I'm no expert by any means, but I find if I take it for a workout, in particular if I do cardio, and someone said there's some research on it, but it really kind of it helps with my thinking.
Really?
It stimulates the mind. Apparently it's good to take if you're doing jiu-jitsu, because, yeah, and again, don't take my word for it, but apparently there's some research about how it stimulates part of your brain, and it's a good thing for, and even if you're probably don't want to sit down and just take it, but even if you sort of like doing any kind of work, it's and it's something that what do they call it? Those brain enhancers or something?
Yeah, nootropics.
Yeah. So
I know obviously creatine has massive benefactors with the ATP explosive stuff, right? So when I was training very high volume, I was using different form of creatine periodically. But because of the stage I was and have been at the last couple of months to a year of dramatically bringing my body weight down, I've not done anything to try to hold on to anything. So the stage I'm at right now, I'm actually, again, this is the first time I've spoken about this, but it will be more common knowledge. I'm going to be doing a fit for 40, not the word, not the theme I'm going to be calling it, but I'm turning 40 in November. So I want to be in the best shape I can be, but in a physically, mentally, and cardiovascularly than I've ever been. So I had this athlete background that I was a cardio king, and then I went from running is bad. You can't do that if you want to put weight on, to doing nothing but steady pace cardio. So now I'm getting back into the swing of things. So it's kind of why all that stuff is on the whiteboard behind you, where we're making plans of action. So we start that in June, and there's going to be a periodic, following of sorts, documenting different things. So a little bit of bodybuilding training. I won't lose my core foundation. A little bit of strongman training, maybe a little stuff for the UFC guys. A couple of things mixed in, and I think it'd be just a good journey to follow. There's more of again, for me, a new goal, a new task that I could get my head into, aside from all the businesses, because I still have to work on my personal brand. Because the businesses is a collective group of everybody, even though I'm leading from the front, but I still have to have things that I demand from myself personally as a brand too. So that's something I'm excited for.
And what about recovery? Is there anything, I guess, it's a word that's discussed a lot, and there's many different things around it, but what do you find is good to help you recover? Do you have certain like sleep rituals or anything like that to make sure you sort of get recover, don't get injured or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of started focusing on recovery way after I got injured. I came, like I said, to the country. I didn't have a pot to piss in. I didn't have no money to put into anything but the sport. And what I was putting into the sport was tuna and rice and 3 tubs of protein, whoever would give me something at that time. And as the years have gone on, and also, going back to what I was saying, surrounding myself with certain athletes, you hear that the investment that they put into to themselves in recovery is, incredible. You hear about LeBron James spending an ungodly amount on different therapists. And when you hear that, you think to myself, wow, that guy's the best in the world. He trains every day as if it's kind of his rookie season. And he's now surrounded himself with the best therapists, the best mental coaches, the best of the best. But he's paying for it. When I was, broke, I had a lot of people that genuinely offered their services to me. And then when I made money, they were the first people to get paid. And they've been a traveling circus with me. So when I moved from Tennessee to Florida, they came. When I moved to Florida to Vegas, they came. So I have a lot of people who still are in and around me. Some people have gone, over the years, but doesn't mean to say that I'm not friends with them. But the ones that have stayed in and around me all benefit from that element. And recovery was something that I really started putting more and more into. For the Olympia preps, I got 2 torn shoulders, I got micro tears in different parts of the body. I was having physical therapy 5 times a week. Wasn't shooting none of it, wasn't talking about it. Didn't need anybody to know about it, didn't need a judge to be like, yeah, I could see them tears. Nothing was known. I only started speaking about it after the fact, when I've retired. But recovery for me, I was in excruciating pain. I couldn't sleep at night, and then I started looking into different things. I invested into a bed, one of these systematic beds. I also sleep to this day, which is kind of a tip for the viewers watching. If anybody has a shoulder pain, I bought, or shall I say, when my wife was pregnant, a pregnancy pillow. One of these big U.
Where you put your arm in it? Is that?
No, it's the big U shape one.
Okay, I'm not seeing that.
So I sleep in this pillow like this.
On your back?
On my back.
All right.
On
Do
my
you snore?
No, I don't. Now I've lost 60 pounds. I sleep in this pillow like this, and I'm kind of cocooned in. Because when I was in prep, I was a very restless sleeper. I mean, you're talking about metabolism, you're talking about night sweats, you're talking about all that thing that comes with being part of a bodybuilder stroke athlete. That metabolism is flying. You'd wake up in the middle of the night hungry, soaking wet, just for no reason. You've just started sweating in your sleep. And now, obviously, I don't get none of that, but I still have the mentality of recovery in my head. So right now, I've got things like cold plunge in my house. I've got a sauna that's coming. It's on the way. And this is all kind of the things that I'm going to be talking about in this next chapter, in this next journey, is showing that, that the recovery element of things is just as important as the physicality that you put in. Because you can't grow unless you recover. And I've said this to so many young guys. You grow the 23 hours you're out of the gym, not the hour you're in the gym. As long as you put that work in, recover. Don't be around, don't be staying up late, don't be missing meals. It's very easy when you get down to bare essentials. Bodybuilding is bare basics. Eat, sleep, train, repeat. That's it. That's all you need to do. And a lot of people fuck that up. I don't know how. It's just easy. So keep consistent with your goals. Keep consistent with your plan of action, and dream big. If you want to be a champion, then you've got to believe in yourself before anybody else does. And it took me a while to believe in myself. But when I believed in myself, let me tell you something, I had booster rockets on my back, and I was like, okay, now I see what I need to do, but not just for me, but for the people who believe in me too. And now it's time to go. And when I said, when that started happening and that belief system started kicking, it's just grown and grown and grown and grown. And now I'm into a different stratosphere with, businessmen that talk a completely different language. But I truly enjoy it because this is the world I want to be in. And I'm marrying bodybuilding and business together at the Dragons Lair.
So my last question then. Escape Your Limits is about escaping what you've believed is impossible and gone on to make possible. Outside of what we've spoke about, what would be one of your most memorable examples of escaping your personal limits?
Ooh. Give me the question one more time. I know what you said, but now I'm stalling.
So escaping your limits is about escaping what you've mentally believed is impossible and gone on to make possible. What would you say, outside of the examples that we talked about here today, what would be one of your most memorable examples of escaping your own limits or your own personal limits?
Oh my gosh, that's the first question you've sidelined me on. There's been so many. I'm trying to give you one that really hits home, but I would say coming to the US for the first time. I mean, I jumped on that plane, had a ticket that said I was coming back in 90 days, and I thought to myself, wow, this is going to be everything I think it is, or everything I don't think it is. And I probably had more people telling me during that point in time that this wasn't going to work. Go out there, enjoy America, because you're going to come back home. And you're going to go back to this company that you created and built, and why do you even want to put this seed in your head? And I went there, and it was everything and more than I ever dreamed. Everything was bigger, everything was better. The chicks were prettier. I mean, you remember, I'm 19 years old. I'm 19 years old. I go to Gold's Gym, Venice. There's girls walking around in bikinis and hot pants. And in my gym, this small little box gym in Llanelli, Wales, there's not a girl in sight, And I thought, oh my God, this is incredible. But there was also a lot of reality too that I had to fight. You know, the reality of, okay, I've created this company. I have employees, you know, I actually created a salary for my mother. I've done all these things that people said were impossible, and I've done them too. So that was one, but this was a whole different thing. So, and then I had to remember that, you know, no great things get achieved with very little stress. And I thought to myself that I'm still young. I can give this a go, and I can always go back. Well, that was the story that I was telling my parents. I was never going back. There was no plan B. This was burn the ships. I was going in, I was going to do this. And, you know, I look back, I think to myself, and I've done this many times, I got the goosebumps again. I think that kid, because that's not me right now. This kid, this 19-year-old kid, he had some balls. He had some balls. And this is not me giving myself props, because I'm a different man right now, that I couldn't do that. I couldn't go to, let's just say, Australia and try and start all over again and leave my family and what I've created here. It's just a different mentality. But at that point in time, I knew in my heart of hearts, this was everything I needed to do. And I wasn't going to fail. And every time I had a small piece of positivity, it outweighed every other that was going wrong. And when I tell you, so many things were going wrong. I didn't have money. I was on a 90-day visa. I had, you know, it was just so many different things. But then I might have met a photographer that took a photo of me, right? And then 3 months later, this little article was in Flex magazine. Look at this. Yes.
Just a little bit of hope to keep things going. How long did it last before you felt that you actually was like, okay, I'm going to get through this, from, you know, what you obviously didn't know you were going to get through?
I'm going to tell you this. I probably haven't said this much, but I was on my last, it was under $50. It was probably like $20-something. And I had a phone from a friend that I was using that I was soon to give back, because it was one of these pay phones, and I was texting to many people in the UK. And I get this number that pops up, a 310 number, which is California. I answer it, and RIP, but it was Peter McGough, who is the editor-in-chief of Flex magazine. And he said to me, he's like, hey Flex, you got time to speak? I was like, oh yeah. How are you doing, Peter? And he's also English. He said to me, hey, so listen, we are at Flex magazine, would love to bring you on as a sponsored athlete. And I'm like, excuse me? He's like, can you hear me, Flex? Hello? And I said, Peter, I heard you. And I said to him, and he's told this story online too, about his reaction, my reaction to his. And I said, Peter, I'm in the middle of Ralph's superstore. It's like a, you know, supermarket. And I said, I got to yell, mate. Okay, just bear with me. Pull your ear away from the phone. And I just went, yeah. Nobody batted an eyelid, because there's so many crazies in California. And I yelled, and I went ballistic, and I jumped back on the phone. He's laughing. I think he put me on loudspeaker for all the staff to hear. I was invited up to the We the Business, which had a HQ in Woodland Hills. And I go in there, there's just everything and more I ever thought about bodybuilding. There was Lavagans, there was massive full-size paintings of Arnold, Lou Ferrigno, oil canvases. There was Ben Weider collected this military art, which was custom, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff. Went into the offices, 2 floors, staff writers everywhere. I was invited upstairs. They said, do you want to see Joe Weider's office? Joe was not here because his back is giving him a problem. He's in hospital. Go into his office. Joe Weider's sitting in there. And they were like, what are you doing in here, Joe? He's like, I don't want to stay away. And he's got all these old school, you know, remember the photos? He had his little eye monocle out, and he was looking at every slide, different ones like this. The guy was, I don't even know how old he was, probably in his 80s then. And he was like, "Oh, come here. This is the new guy." And we done the cliche Arnold shot with Joe. Somebody took a photo of it, which is probably out there somewhere. And that was another moment where I was like, I've made it. I made it. I have to remind myself more about that time. I forget about that time, and I'm glad you asked me that question, because this has been a buried memory for a number of years. But that was a moment in time where that 15-year-old kid was watching VHS DVDs over and over and over again on bodybuilding, and watching Joe Eder give out trophies. There I am in his presence, telling me that I'm his new athlete being signed. Was full circle. And yeah, thanks for asking that question, mate. I forgot about that memory. It's one I shouldn't do, because that is a very pivotal part of my career. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's been great speaking to you.
You too, my man.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you've got any value from it whatsoever, then please do us a favor, like, subscribe, tell somebody, and that will help us to be able to continue to do more of these and help you escape your own personal limits. Thanks for listening.